You're watching Women of Strength TV with a purpose-driven woman who has a yearning deep in her soul to serve the world. Presented to you by Ange Wilcock, creator of Evolutionary Model of Well-Being, Mindfulness-Based Storytelling, and the Raw Woman Project, a businesswoman on a mission for every human on the earth to feel enough.
Hi, so welcome to Women of Strength TV and podcast. And again, I have an incredible lady, and this lady I know, and I've met in person, and we met at an incredible event earlier on this year. And so I'd like to welcome Claire.
Well, thank you, Ange. Really nice to be with you today.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be with you too. Now, I'm going to just introduce a little bit about you, Claire, to our audience. And as my audience already know, that I always read the bio. So I'm just going to read you out. I'm going to read you out Claire's bio. And this is wonderful. So Claire Wild. So who is Claire Wild? Well, Claire is a life sparkler. I love that. It's so amazing. And a tamer of elephants, in brackets, in the room. And we all know what that feels like. So nowadays, she's on a mission to change the way we see and deal with mental health, and especially crush the stigma that is still attached to it. I mean, what an amazing cause, Claire, because we absolutely need people like you in this world. And in her private and professional life, as a body-mind therapeutic coach, she witnessed too many people suppressing parts of themselves in order to fit in, which led to many people suppressing parts of themselves in order to fit in. I've just read that. Yeah, sorry. And this is why
well, that was an important part.
This is why this interview is just raw, just as it is. But anyway, so I'll carry on. Which led to stress and eventually anxiety or depression and burnout, and even suicidal thoughts, not to mention various chronic ailments. And so Claire helps people finding resilience through owning their stories. Oh, you're in the perfect place here then, Claire. Embodying all the dimensions of who they are. She also loves dancing, and she is a slow mad at heart. She is a what? A slow mad at heart.
A slow nomad.
Oh, a slow nomad. Well, that's a new term that I learn something new every time from these interviews. So she's a slow mad. Right. Sorry, I didn't read that properly. So she's a slow mad at heart. She lived and sailed on her own sailing boat for years. Oh, wow. You're going to have some wonderful stories about that, I'm sure. And she deeply believes in experiencing life and is always keen to try something new. Wow. So, yeah, see, even though I met Claire at this incredible event earlier in the year, I didn't know half of that about her. So this is going to be wonderful. So the question I ask Claire, I ask all of my guests is, can you share with us your story around stepping into being a woman of strength? What's your journey around that? Where did that start for you?
Yeah, it's first off, I want to say it's a very good question. I'm passionate about this idea of strength, and thinking about this interview and this question, I realized there was a few key moments in my life when I stepped into my power and my strength. And over the years, strength took different meaning, actually, and I did this in a different ways. But the first, I think there were really four major moments like these. And the first was when my father died when I was a kid. I was 8. And he actually disappeared first for a few days. So no one was knowing what was happening. And then someone found him, and it became apparent that he suicided.
Oh, gosh.
So that was the first moment when I had to, these moments in life when you don't know you have the courage to go through this.
Yes.
Until you're there and you just don't have anything other to do than going through these moments. So yeah, and because I was the older of 3 children, I kind of had to step up, and I became this kind of between, of course, I was still a kid and playing and so on, but I had this sense of responsibility, I think more than before, that I had to be like the good girl and help my mom and be kind of not an example for my brothers. I wouldn't go until there, but yeah, be a good kid, you know, be responsible.
Yeah, I suppose like you said, like, yeah, being the eldest, and yeah, huge responsibility to take on at 8 years old. Wow.
Yeah. So that was a very difficult moment, and one that I had really to find, some strength. And I mentioned that he suicided because then I had to find another thing in relationship. I mean, in my relationship, I I soon realized I didn't have a politically correct life anymore.
Yeah, true.
Just having a suicide in your family makes you just unpolitically correct. So I soon noticed that when people were asking, and they were always asking, after I'm sorry. And then the next question was, how did he die? And I soon noticed that if I was honest and answer suicide, there was a kind of a wall coming through, and it made people really uncomfortable. And I didn't understand everything back then of why it happened, but I noticed it right away. So soon enough, I began to say, oh, it was an accident. Because I already knew when they were asking, I knew, you don't really want me to answer that question.
Wow. So 8 years old, like as a young child, you'd already worked that out. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And actually, if I have, people think that children don't understand, or for example, something that in my story, when my father died, so I was 8, my brothers were 6 and 3, and we didn't go to the ceremony because our family, my mother and my grandfathers, they thought it was too much for us. And they wanted to protect us. And actually that did more harm than the opposite. So people think that, children are too young to understand, or too young to experience it. But when you have a difficult moment in life, you're never too young to experience it. If it happens to you. So children really can understand what's happening, and sometimes even better than adults, actually, because they just have this acceptance of what is,
Yeah, that's so true, and that's a really important message to get out there, I think, Claire, because parents do things what they believe is in the best interest of the child, absolutely. But like you said, as a child, you probably needed to try and make sense of it, so you needed to be there to do what you needed to do as a child.
Totally. Totally. Then one other very big step on my journey to Women of Strength was when I lived on my sailing boat. On many levels. First, that was a dream. It didn't happen like that. I had to work towards it. I had to move to the sea to learn how to sail. I am not, this kind of story who was born at sea and sailing before knowing to work. Not at all. I had this idea, and then first I had to check if it was a good idea. So I moved to the sea. I learned how to sail. I was working. I was putting every money I could in this project. So waiting for the moment I had enough, and waiting and looking for boats to buy. So it took a few years to get there. And it was a moment when I acted out in my life that, okay, you can have crazy dreams, because let me say, when I was a teenager and I was saying when I was in high school, I will sail and I will travel on my sailing boat. And they were like, yeah, sure. Like that was a silly dream,
Yeah.
so when you realize this thing, then there is a sense of anything is possible and everything is possible if you put enough energy in that. That comes true. It's not something that, you know, you hear in movies and books, but yes, you did it. So that there was this very empowering thing. And then living on the sea and living on the boat is really, really empowering.
I'd imagine it takes lots of courage too.
Well, for me, it's not courage,
right.
but it's a kind of responsibility, actually. It's a kind of sense of responsibility, because you're absolutely responsible for your life. Like, I'm not a millionaire who can pay an helicopter, you know, to come and rescue me in the middle of the Atlantic. So when I was doing crossing, and I've been a few weeks at sea sometimes, it was me and the sea, and I wasn't alone. I had a partner on the boat, so we were two. But it was us and the sea, and that's it. So we had to make it work.
Yeah.
So it taught me persistence. It taught me to go beyond my limit. Even, you know, you're tired and the only thing you want to do is sleeping. I remember moments like that when, you know, my partner would wake me up and it was my turn to go up and look around and I was just like, no, let me sleep. I want to sleep. You come to very basic, what's important in life, you know, sleep, eat.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's a very beautiful life. It gives a lot of freedom, and it comes with, you get what you give, basically. So you have to invest a lot in this life. You have to do that, but it's very empowering.
Yeah, and I liked what you said, because I was just thinking back to, you know, when you were talking about when your dad suicided, and, you know, and we know that suicide is you know, such a tragic thing to have to do, to want to, you know, to take your life, and yet then when you were sailing, and that you were saying you have to take full responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, no disrespect to your dad or anyone that chooses to suicide, but it's, you know, there's that sense of, from a young child, it feels like you had this huge responsibility, that this is your life and only you were responsible for it, and that you were going to do whatever you could to make it the best life that you could around, you know, you had this dream to go sailing, and you worked so hard to get there. I mean, that's incredible. In so, you know, for me, and and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like it's like this legacy to your father. It's like, well, you chose something for your life, and yet I'm going to choose something different for mine, and I'm going to work so hard to step into that place and realize all my life dreams. It's like,
well, you know, there's something with suicide. So, and we will talk about it. I mean, I think, you know, we will talk about it again.
Yeah.
Suicide again.
Yeah.
There's something with suicide that, in most cases, I mean, statistics shows that when there is a suicide, it raises the probability for people near to that person to suicide themselves also.
Wow.
But another thing that I didn't see any statistics on that, but I know personally, and I know in my experience in meeting people, when someone suicide and it's close to you, it has this, it throws you into this inquiry. Okay, what is life? What do I want to do with my life? What is living? Why am I living? Suddenly, all these questions we don't necessarily ask on a daily basis. Well, we need to think about it. And I think that the suicide of my father throwed me. I mean, this is my passion. I've always been passionate about, okay, what is life? We always talk about being alive, in life, but what is this? What is this? We all share this, yet it shows up in such different ways in every one of us. So I was very passionate about that. And when someone commits suicide and close to you, often it also has the opposite effect of, fuck it, I'm going to live my life. You know, because people don't suicide because they want to die. They want to live.
Yes.
ultimately. But the pain is so big, so they want the pain to stop. And unfortunately, they come to a place that the suicide is the only solution they see to stop the pain. And obviously, when you're not that person, you can see many other solutions. There is always other solutions. But they come to a kind of tunnel vision, and the only thing they see is, I'm going to end my pain. So it's actually, it's a bit hard to understand, but it's actually an action for living, not for dying, ultimately. It's unfortunate that, well, taking your own life to have a better life is not working. It's not a good solution, guys. But there's something of, no, I know there are better solutions to have a full life and a better life, and I'm gonna have that.
Wow.
So in one sense, it threw me on this, and it was not so conscious at the time. But
no.
It gave me the will of, no. If I live, I want to be happy to live. So I want to. And it's not that simple. I mean, I was struggling with other things even when I was realizing my dream and sailing on my boat, I was struggling with other things, and I was still in this thing of what I shared about having a non-politically correct life. And
that would be challenging, wouldn't it? Because, you know...
Well, basically what it comes to is me realizing I was making people feel uncomfortable. So I would keep that down. So that's why I was saying, for example, it was an accident instead of a suicide. So in some ways, I was not being myself in every aspect I could, because I was seeing that it was not okay.
And so there you were, even at a young age, protecting other people.
Sure. And again, we think children cannot understand all of this, but they feel everything. And even though they don't understand completely what's happening, they really feel what's happening, and they adapt to that. But let's go further. The next step, who stepped into my power when this partner I was with on the boat, and I stayed with him for 13 years. One day I realized, well, we are very good friends, but we're not lovers anymore. So it was a bit more painful than that. But then I had to admit, okay, this relationship has to end the way it is. We have to let go of one another, and we're still good friends. But actually, that's what I've told him. I said, look, now we are really good friends. We are the best friends. Let's stay like this and not wait until we cannot support each other, or when we cannot see each other anymore. So we departed. We separated, and that was a very big moment for me to actually come back to myself. That was the beginning of. Really coming back to myself, because I had to crush a few fears to do that, and it took a long time. It took me 1 year to realize and accept that it was inevitable. We had to split.
And again, that does take courage. I mean, that's a long relationship, isn't it? And then for you to make that decision that it's not in the best interest of you and who you are right now to continue this as an intimate relationship, and to be able to step into your power and say that and preserve yourself and the other person. I mean, that's quite beautiful to do that. Wow. I love that.
And I was letting go of, after 13 years, we were living together for 13 years. So I was not used to live alone anymore. So there was this fear of, oh my God, I'm going to be alone. And I was under that. There was this fear of being lonely. And So I had this fear. I was saying goodbye to the lifestyle as well, because it was sailing and living on the boats was not something I wanted to do alone. It's a beautiful life, but it's a very tiring life. And so by splitting with my partner, I was also saying goodbye to the boat and to this sailing life, at least for now. So that was also a bit difficult to admit. And I was also, I guess the most painful part was admitting that I should have done that way before. And that I was lying to myself and that I was losing myself in this relationship. And that was not from that moment. This thing began way before and I didn't see it at the time. And I think that was the most painful thing, actually, realizing, oh, I lost myself.
And it's such a common thing as well, isn't it? You know, when you speak to women and the relationships have ended and it's taken them courage and time to do that. And once they've done it and it's so freeing for them,
oh, yes.
Yeah. And then they go, wow, I wish I'd have done this years ago. Yeah. Or, you know, so from my belief system, I believe that everything we do at the right time. Because maybe if you'd have done it earlier, you wouldn't have had the incredible friendship that you've got today, or, you know, whatever. Yeah, it is, though. It's so common. It's something I hear quite often.
Yeah.
Doing these interviews and clients, but yeah, so there you are. You've ended this relationship. You've stepped into your own power and of who you are, and now you're feeling free. Now what happens, Claire?
Well, that's the joke. I was so afraid to do that, and when I took the decision, I felt better, and I was kind of confused because it's not the way you're supposed to be. So I'm not saying it was all easy and I was crying, I was sad, but it wasn't that ugly moment where I just wanted, to lay down and do nothing. Or so for some time I was like, okay, now it's actually fine, but at some point it's going to hit me. I'm going to have this kind of little depression, or I'm going to feel bad. And it never happened. So actually after some time I just stopped waiting for it to happen, because I was feeling better and better and better and better. And I was literally feeling like I was coming home, like I was coming back to myself. And that's when, where I was saying I see strength in a very different way than when I was a child, for example. And for example, when I was a child, strength was I had to push through. I had to kind of build an armor around me and go through that shit that was happening. And I withdrew for myself because it was so uncomfortable for everyone to face suicide through me. So I had to build this armor. And what happened when I split with my partner is I found strength in vulnerability, in accepting and opening totally to what was happening and being totally raw and honest with that. And that was the beginning of me really coming back to my essence, to, okay, I'm tired, to, it's so tiring to try to be someone you're not.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we've all been there, haven't we? It's only when we come out the other side of it that we go, whoa, that was so tiring. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I found that sense of peace, and really that was a power, but it was coming from inside out. It was really profound. And then lately, not so long ago, a few months ago, one of my brother suicided as well.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
And that was a moment where I had to find another strength. So, and it was a special moment because, sometimes in life we have these moments where everything seems to just take off in every level. And I was in that moment. I was meeting people be it for partnering for work or for just friendship. I was meeting really beautiful people. I had a few things coming up for work that were really exciting. Everything just seemed to take off and be great, you know.
Wow.
And then my suicide, and I'm like, oh, I'm stopped. It was a very special moment, especially because I was living in Thailand and my family is French, so they're all living in France, and I was really away from that. So I had to face that alone, find ways to navigate through that without the support of my family. I mean, we were talking a lot, of course, through Skype and what's not, but it's not the same, right?
No. So how did you manage that? How did you manage being on your own? And
well, you know, that's a very interesting moment where I was completely devastated. I was crying for days and days and days. And at the same moment, I was, how can I say that? You know, it's coming back to a bit what I was saying. When someone suicide, you're facing not only death, but the choice of going there. And the total irony there is, because, guys, life is beautiful.
Yeah.
Whenever we face and whatever situation we are in, life in itself, not the situation, but the mere fact of living is just a miracle. It's just a freaking miracle. And by itself, it is beautiful. And then, of course, we forget it because sometimes, yes, life is hard. So I was in between these, but life is so great. Life is so by itself. It's such a miracle. And at the same time, wow, such a deep pain, you know, of feeling this thing. So it was kind of feeling bliss and total agony at the same time. And having this sense that it was just another side of the same coin, you know.
Complete contrast, isn't it? Yeah, yes. Complete contrast. Yeah.
And all of this is life. Yes. Total agony is life.
Yeah.
And total bliss is life.
Yes. Yeah. But and the sadness around some of that is that not everyone can see it like that, isn't it? You know, some people only ever see the agony, and they can't find the bliss. And there is a sadness in that. And I suppose that brings me to that, you know, when you in your bio we were talking about, you know, that resilience. So where do you think that resilience, you know, comes from? Because there you are, you're raised in this family, same circumstances, you're the eldest, you know, obviously you've got this amazing resilience about you. And then you've got a brother, same family, and different responsibilities, and his level of resilience was different to yours. So what's your sort of views around, you know, that resilience? And
well, you know, first let me tell something. I think it will help to explain, like, I don't know when actually, but my mother told me this conversation she had with my brother after I came back to France. And she said, you know, at some point he said to me, he made a kind of a list of, you know, I wish I could afford to buy a house, and I don't have it, and I don't have a home, and I don't have a wife, and I don't have the work I wanted. And he was making all this list. And while she was saying that to me, and he was obviously saying all of this, and the consequence were, and therefore I'm so unhappy, I'm so miserable. And when she was saying all that to me, I was thinking to myself, well, on this list, I don't have anything that's on this list either. And I'm fine with it. Yeah. So it's not the circumstances, it's what you make about the circumstances.
Yeah.
And that's a key to resilience. And I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because what I went through when I was a kid was being strong. It was not being resilient. It was not empowering. It was tiring. I was pushing a lot of energy and effort in that. And yeah, that was trying to be strong. And this is very different from being resilient.
Yeah.
Resilience is a process that's you have to see on the long term. And for example, when my brother died, I was completely obliterated. I was completely crying all the time. I didn't do anything. I stopped seeing people. I had to go through that. And this is resilience. I wasn't strong in that moment.
No.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was completely going with what was. And I call it going through the pain. It's there. There's no sense in trying to resist it. And being strong, in a way, is saying to ourselves, oh, this pain there, it's not okay. Yeah. So I'm going to say that it's not so big and I'm stronger than that. So we resist to this. And anything you resist, you make it bigger.
Yes.
Because you focus on that. Because to resist something, you have to focus on that thing.
Yes.
But when you just accept, when you say, yes, okay, I don't want it, but it's there. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you go totally through the pain, then you can find resilience.
Yes.
So resilience is about accepting. First thing is accepting totally what is. And going into the vulnerability of whatever can be happening at that time. And then you can go, a friend of mine says it's like being strong, and this talk about being strong or being resilient, it's like being in a room and that has two doors, and you open the first one, and being strong, you're at the first one and you say, let me close the other one. But you cannot do that unless you cross the room, and that's resilience. Yeah. You open the first door, you cross the room, and then you can get to the other one and close the second door. But you have to do this process.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. And I love your journey and the way that you've explained it. Yeah, because it's going to help so many people to understand that as well. Like, it's quite beautiful. So, and I know we're nearly coming to our time. So what I'm really eager to hear, and I'm sure all our listeners are too, so what's beautiful Claire doing today with all of what she's learned in this amazing journey? What's she up to today? What's life looking like now?
Well, right now I'm developing this project, Integrally Alive, and it's exactly about that. So helping people find resilience, stop being strong, and finding resilience into accepting every dimension of who they are. Because as I told, when we are trying to be strong, often it means suppressing something. So maybe it's physical pain you're suppressing, maybe it's an emotion, maybe it's a thought or dream you have, and you're like, no, I wish I could do that, but I cannot. This is suppressing oneself, guys. So I have various tools. I've been doing body work for more than 10 years now. I've a few tools in my belt, like somatic movement and NLP, and I'm helping people just be who they are, but the whole dimension of who they are. And then they find resilience and they own their stories and they are alive. I'm really, I was sharing that I have this passion of understanding and feeling what it means to be alive. And I see so many people. I mean, my dad and my brothers, they didn't die the day they suicided. They were dead long before. They were dead alive. That's true. My passion today, it's helping people realizing where they are doing that maybe, and if they are, helping them to feel alive again in all of their life, not just one thing or the other. We can have everything, guys. We just forget how good can life be. We're just forgetting that too much.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And so how can people contact you, Claire? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, the best way is through my website, integrallyalive.com.
Okay.
So there they can find, I'm doing a podcast as well on these themes, so they can listen to the podcast and they have all my contacts and they can know a bit more about what I'm about. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I'll put all the details at the bottom of this, the podcast and Woman of Strength TV, so that people can connect with you, because I think what you're doing out there is absolutely incredible. I love it. It's so needed, isn't it? It's just so needed. For people, like you said, to come alive while they are alive, because we do talk about living, but there's a difference between living and feeling alive. And I love that. I love
the first, I don't remember her name, but a nurse did a survey with dying people and about regrets. What did they regret the moment they die? The first one is they didn't allow themselves to be who they were. The first regrets. So this is something I was really touched, and because of my personal story, of course, my dad and brother definitely didn't allow themselves to be themselves. So I don't agree with that. I think we should feel allowed to be who we are.
Yeah.
And it's a big epidemic. I mean, the World Health Organization states not even in 2 years, by 2020, depression will be the second health issue in the world.
I know, it's staggering, isn't it? It's
all around us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and it's very sad because people don't realize, and I have a few clients that actually don't realize until someone tells them or something big happens.
Yeah.
That, I actually have been in depression for all these years without knowing. On my podcast, I even have a friend of us actually sharing that she was in depression for 10 years. And it's not until the day she decided to die that she realized, I have a problem. I probably need help. She was struggling with that 10 years without realizing that. So this is crazy. I want to change that.
Yeah, and I think, and there's so many of us out there doing this in different ways. I mean, that's part of why I do what I do, because we all connect through stories. Women connect through stories. And if there's one woman out there listening to this when it goes live, and it's going to save a life, it's probably going to save many lives. And that's the whole purpose of it, because people will hear it and they'll hear the story, and they'll hear the story of all the other women that I'm interviewing, and they'll connect to it and they'll go, wow, I'm not alone. It's not just me.
Yeah.
And I can do something about it. And that's what I love about what we do as women. I'm not saying men don't do it, because they do, but there's something quite powerful about that female tribe, that female spirit that connects to other women, because stories are an incredible way of connecting and getting a message out there and making a difference in the world. And it's why I think I said to you off air before we went live, I'm just in bliss land all the time, talking to these, having these incredible conversations.
Yeah.
Because having this conversation with me today, in the future it's going to save people's lives. You absolutely know that. And my heart just is so big, like it's just incredible. And it's like we're all connecting, aren't we? And we're all out there and we're doing our thing, because all we want is for everyone to be feeling alive, because we all are alive and we've got this incredible life, like you said, to live. And it's there for us, but we don't always see that because we get stuck in the circumstances. And so your podcast is going to be incredible, and this podcast is incredible, because we have these amazing women out there who are going, do you know what, this is my story, and I was able to move beyond my story. And yes, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It was a struggle, but you can do it too. And I just, I love it. I just love what we're all doing. It's just it's incredible. Wow. So we've come to the end of our time now, and I'm sure we've got another conversation to have.
Oh, yes.
Many, many conversations. and many reconnections, because I know we'll be reconnecting again next year if it's not before. But I just want to say thank you so much, Claire, because I know for certain that this interview is going to make such a difference, because you've been honest and so raw, and just you'll help people make sense of it. It's like, wow, yes. Because I've got people in my circle whose friends and parents, a parent and family members have suicided, and it is still with them today. The feelings that come up with that, and you talking about what really struck a chord with me was you talking about 8 years old and people feeling uncomfortable. So as a child, you had to then start not lying, but giving another version of how your dad chose to leave this earth because people felt uncomfortable. And it's like, and we need to stop that, don't we? We need to for people to go, do you know what?
Yeah,
it's okay to talk about this, because the more we talk about it, the more people more people are going to ask for help.
Yeah. Actually, you're talking. I mean, we could have another entire conversation about that. This is
maybe we will. Maybe we will book another one. Maybe we'll do
I would be delighted to, because it is actually the problem with mental health is. Okay, mental health is the problem when we have an issue about that. But you know what makes it even more difficult? The stigma. Yes. So the stigma is like a loop, a magnifier, and it makes it even bigger, because now you have a problem and you feel guilty to have a problem.
Yes.
I mean, who is feeling guilty to have a broken leg? No, frankly, guys, who is feeling guilty to have a broken arm, to have a problem with to have a flu, to have a cold? We feel maybe responsible for that. If you've been skiing, I don't know, like a crazy, and then you break your leg, you feel, okay, I shouldn't have done that. But you don't feel guilty. But people feel guilty to be stressed, to feel anxiety, to be depressed. And that's why they don't want to admit this to themselves.
Yeah.
That's why there is so much denial within themselves and with the surrounding. And it's killing people.
It is.
If my father and if my brother would have been okay to share that, maybe they would be alive today. So, but I could have
I tell you what we need to do. I think what we need to do is we will organise to do a Facebook Live together, an interview around.
Oh, great! Yeah,
because this is such an important topic. It doesn't even do it justice by calling it a topic, but it's such an important area of life, isn't it? That needs to be discussed more often, and it needs to be out there, and people need to understand it, because it literally is life-saving. So we will do that. We will organise that. But for now, my beautiful friend, we have to say goodbye. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you for giving the space, and thank you for. I've been listening to a few of your interviews, and every one of them was interesting, and there was something. And I totally agree with you. Stories are powerful. Yes. People need to, because another thing is we all feel isolated, and when we're struggling, we always feel, I have this problem and it's about me, but everyone is struggling. So sharing stories is a very powerful thing to do. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, and thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Lots of love.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Remain real, authentic, and whole. Be yourself and continue to follow your dreams. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time on Woman of Strength TV.